Princess Allison is gone. That is the topic of tonight's Byline. We've been talking about problems in the Alberta PC Party and the Redford government for some time now. The cost of travel, the out-of-control office budget, and more. Last night on this show, I asked Lorne Gunter how long he gave Redford. We all sensed she might not make it to the next election in 2016, but Lorne at that time simply thought she still had a few months left in her. After all, the caucus seemed to be rallying around the Premier. But then, after the show, last night happened.
I am not prepared to allow party and caucus infighting to get in the way of building a better future for our province and for all Albertans. And that is why I am announcing today that with a profound optimism for Alberta's future, I am resigning as Premier of Alberta, effective this Sunday evening.
How to explain this shock announcement? Well, I think we need to turn to that wise political philosopher, Ron Burgundy, to tell us.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Escalated quickly is an understatement. Last week, Redford's defenders were claiming any criticism was really all about keeping women down. Now, that didn't explain away Donna Kennedy-Glanz, a cabinet minister, former oil executive, and yes, a woman, quitting Redford's cabinet and leaving caucus over her leadership. Now, what happened after that only confirmed what Redford's critics have been saying, that she spent too much and had embraced the culture of entitlement. The $45,000 to fly her to and from Nelson Mandela's funeral. A big chunk of that cost could have been lowered if she just slummed it with the other premiers on the Prime Minister's stinker of a plane. There was the trip to Chicago costing $16,000. Now that's for flights and hotel for two people. That wasn't the cost of presentations or sales pitches or meetings. That was her over-the-top cost for keeping her tushy cushy on the taxpayer dime. There was the use of a government plane for a PC Party fundraiser, and then what I think was the final nail in the coffin of Redford's leadership, the nearly $250,000 sole source contract to a friend and campaign worker for PR and media monitoring services during the floods last summer. All of this combined to add to the growing narrative that Redford was out of touch, that she felt entitled. In the end, it was her caucus telling her that she'd done enough, that she was embarrassing them, giving the party a bad name, that she'd dried up the party's fundraising because donors were angry, and she'd driven polling support down into the teens. So they revolted, and she left. Good for them. I wish more political parties took care of their own dirty laundry. Look at Ontario's Liberals. Here you have a premier who was part of the decision-making and campaign team that saw $1 billion wasted on gas plants that weren't built, big payouts to industry and, well, to do nothing, and then an increase in energy costs and higher taxes for years to pay it off. Why? To save a handful of Liberal seats. What has the Ontario Liberal caucus done? Nothing. They've protected Kathleen Wynne just like they protected Dalton McGuinty before her. And once upon a time, backbenchers could have said, we didn't know. We weren't at the table. We weren't part of that decision making. But once they found out the truth, they could have done the province a favor and dumped Wynne. They didn't, and they won't. So kudos to the Alberta PCs for doing what so many other political parties will not do. So what happens now? With the elections 2 years away, the PCs will have another leadership race. Will they elect a progressive leader or a conservative leader? If you know political thought, those are opposing viewpoints. Redford didn't see that, but listen here. Listen here and you will see she really leans progressive.
Over the last 2 years, we've made incredible progress in delivering both a progressive, and I underline that word, and a conservative change.
Yeah, I can't have it both ways. As I say, the PCs have a decision to make. Will they be Redford progressives, the UN-loving, land rights-taking, big government progressives, or will they turn and become small government, property rights-supporting conservatives? Will they try and continue to steal ground from the Liberal Party of Alberta and the NDP, or will they try and move back to the right to take on their real threat, the conservative-leaning Wild Rose? The campaign will be fascinating. We will be following it, and if you live in Alberta, you might want to get involved. The future of the province is at stake. And that's the Byline.
I want to thank my wonderful constituents. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
One or two guys standing up in the balcony at the legislature in Edmonton chanting, Allison, Allison. Was one of them Monty Sahlberg? Let's ask him. Monty Sahlberg joins us now to talk more about our top story, which is Redford's resignation. I can't say I'm sorry to see her go. I do hope, Monty, though, that the PCs choose another direction than the one they've been heading in.
No question. You know, Alison Redford has made a real, she's really damaged the PC brand. There's no question about it. She's extraordinary in the sense that, you know, Alberta has a long tradition of premiers who are in touch with the public. They get the public. They know how to relate to them. But Alison Redford had a tin ear when it came to all of that, and they're going to have to find a new direction to go, or they're going to face annihilation at the hands of Wild Rose.
She couldn't understand why people would be upset over some of these things. The $518,000 trip to go to the London Olympics with her entourage, $18,000 to go to Chicago and Toronto, $45,000 for South Africa, $120,000 to go to India and Switzerland. I understand trying to sell Alberta's resources to the world, but there's a way to do it, and then there's a way to do it and live high on the hog.
Yeah, no, that's right. You can go ahead and do these things, but you also have to demonstrate a bit of humility and make a real, make it very clear that you're not there to spend taxpayers' dollars willy-nilly, that you're going to try and be a bit careful with these things, and you're going to punctuate your world travel with travel to places like Consort, Alberta, or Coronation, or Drayton Valley, not simply be on the road to all these international destinations reporting back on how you're selling Alberta's resources. After a while, people just didn't buy it anymore.
Now, as far as the direction the PCs go in, when I've been out in Alberta talking with PC supporters, sometimes I swear I've been talking to New Democrats. The party has become such a big tent that it encompasses everyone because it's a party of power. So do you think that they will take a cue and say, okay, let's be what we say we are? Or do you think they're going to keep going in the Redford progressive direction?
Well, this is a moment of decision for the Progressive Conservative Party of Alberta, and I get your point, Brian, about those being contradictory things. They really have to decide whether they're going to become conservatives again, and in doing that, maybe push Wild Rose sort of off the stage. If they don't, I think they're in big, big trouble. I don't think it's possible to sort of ride that fence much longer. People are getting tired of it. And it was made manifest, the problem with this approach was made manifest in the last budget, where despite the fact they had record revenues, they ran a $4 billion deficit. Sure, they tried to pretend that the books are now balanced, but that just doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And I think people are tired of those kinds of games. You
know what I think that she and others, I won't mention other names, other progressive politicians, leaders in Alberta, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to appeal to the newcomers that are going to Alberta for the jobs and want the old ways that they had back in places like Ontario, where I'm living and where the economy doesn't work. So these people move from Ontario to Alberta and they say, let's go there, there's jobs there. Oh, and let's recreate all the crap we had back home that killed the economy. And Alison Redford's happy to play to that. And I think that was part of her problem as well.
You know, in the last election campaign, if you looked at the people that actually voted for Wild Rose and who almost voted for Wild Rose, who indicated that they had considered voting for Wild Rose, it came to almost 60% of the voters in the last election. My view is that there's still a huge constituency for conservative policies, even among some of the people who are new to Alberta, the people who sort of get that the reason that there is prosperity here is because we have a tradition, one that we're living on today, not adding to, of free markets and low taxes and that kind of thing. So I think there's great hope for conservatives in Alberta, but you know, we can't live on the capital of Ralph Klein and Peter Lougheed forever. We've got to continue to contribute to it in the form of new policies that encourage more investment here and a better environment for free market entrepreneurs.
Any names popping up yet on who will seek to replace Ms. Redford?
Well, it's funny. The very evening when she was ousted, there were Facebook pages popping up inviting you to like, you know, for instance, Jonathan Dennis, one of the more conservative people in the PC caucus, somebody who, you know, might be testing the waters on these things. There's lots of people on the left. You know, rumor has it Thomas Lukasik would be one of those names. But it's a bit early to tell. There's some people that are out of politics now, like Jim Prentice or Jim Dinning, whose names will come up. And then there's a whole bunch of people we've seen run before. I don't think they're the answer. I think it would be a disaster for the Progressive Conservatives if they decide to reach back into that very shallow talent pool.
All right, maybe we'll start a draft Monty movement. maybe I'll just throw that out there, be mischievous. You're not running.
No, I have no interest in that.
When you left politics, you left.
I have too much respect for my province to let my name stand for that.
All right, Monty, we'll talk to you later.